Today's fun to practice Etude is going to get your economy picking more smoking than my dad in the 90s when he was trying to save up enough Marlboro miles to get me that sweet leather jacket. R.I.P. my dad. Hey there kids, it's your good buddy, Uncle Ben. Economy picking is an extremely important technique for every young shred-eye knight, but it can be hard to know where to get started with it because so much stuff is so complicated and it's really hard just to throw yourself in at 100 miles per hour. That's why I designed today's Etude to help you guys get a grip on one of the most important fundamental techniques of economy picking, which is the rest stroke, also known as the best stroke. That reminds me, it's been a little while since I talked to your stepmom. Wonder how she's doing. Head on over to my Patreon page over at patreon.com/Ben Eller Guitars to find yourself the practice tracks to go along with this Etude, as well as the guitar profiles. That way you can build your own perfect practice session. And if you practice this stuff like a dang old son of a bitch like I know you can, you're going to be the next Shreddy Krueger in no time fast. So don't delay, sign up today over at patreon.com/Ben Eller Guitars. Gear-wise for today's video, I'm playing my lovely Suhr Modern Satin, which remains my favorite hunk of wood in the world. No offense to Andy Wood. And I'm playing that today into the brand new Synergy Friedman BE-DLX module, which captures the sounds of their amazing BE model, also known as the Ben Eller model, as well as the HBE in one simple to use little unit. It's got what it takes. It brings the pain. Now let's hear that thing one more time at step-dead speed. Alright, now first thing I'm going to do is show you guys how to play the Etude, then we're going to talk about the picking specifics, and then after that I'm going to tell you guys a great story about Marlboro miles. So this is based around arpeggios in the key of A minor. It's going to take you through all 7 diatonic arpeggios that appear through there, so this can be a really helpful thing if you're trying to learn how to play those fancy arpeggios across the neck. Now we're going to be putting these first on the D and G strings, but you can practice this on any other pair of strings, and I recommend that you do. So the first lick that we're going to play here outlines an A minor arpeggio, and it also adds in this 4th or 11th. You're going to see that through all of these arpeggio shapes we go through. So start off here with the root note, A, then you're going to play the flat 3rd, C on the next string, then jump up to the 5th, E, on that same string. So you have... After this, you're going to walk down the scale, playing that 11th, the D note, and then the C note again. So the first phrase is... Now, timing-wise, we're looking for triplet, triplet. You'll notice there's kind of a rest right there on that first note. Triplet, triplet. More on that as we go through here. Now, the next phrase is the same set of notes, but in a different order. Check this out. So you can see we just walked straight up the notes right there. A, C, D, E, and then back to C. Okay, so we skipped that middle note on the way down. So now you have. Repeat that 2 times in a row. After this, what we're going to do is just to move up in the scale here. Play the B note. This is where we're going to outline a B diminished arpeggio. B, D, F, that's your diminished. And come down and play E, D for the first section. After this, the same idea but with the ascending combination instead. We're going to play both licks twice. Next, we're going to play a C major based one here with this added F note as it's 11. So we're going to play C, E, G, F, E, and then the same notes with the ascending combination. Twice in a row. Really important to notice that groove. It's not just... It's not that. Should be as jaunty as a page boy's cap in a Dickensian story of olden times where the children were chimney swifts and badly diseased. That jaunty. Anyway, next one is D minor based here, so we're going to play D, F, A, walk it down, G, F, sorry, alphabet, and then the ascending one. Up next is going to be the E minor based one, so play the exact same shape. It works out as the exact same fingering combination and stuff, starting here on the E note. It gives us E, G, B, A, G, and then E, G, A, B, G. Up next we'll get here to the F note, which is going to be F major based, but with that added sharp 11 for maximum Lydian enjoyment pleasure. So we're going to play F, A, C, B, A, F, A, B, C, A. "20-something years into playing guitar, saying the alphabet backwards isn't any fucking easier. Next we're up here to G. We're going to play G, B, D, C, B, G, B, C, D, B. I think I said that right. And then lastly, we end up here an octave above where we began, back on A minor. It's the exact same shape we started with, just an octave up. And then I ended the Etude on a root note A for extra emphasis. So all together, we should have A minor, B diminished, C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, and A minor. Just like that. Now, if you want to be the good boy, I recommend practicing that on all your other string sets as well. So you could take that exact same set of shapes and the distances between the shapes and apply them to your E and A strings or your B and high E strings. If you do it on the G and B, you got to shift the shapes around because of the tuning, and yeah, who's got time for that, right? So I could play that exact same set of things starting here from this A note on the 5th fret low E string, right? A minor, B diminished, C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor. Or if you have a 24 fret guitar for kids like I do, you can play this exact same set of arpeggios and stuff starting off on the A note on the B string, fret number 10, and maintain those same shapes and distances like this. Gets pretty tough when you get up there onto the dusty frets, doesn't it? But there you go, you can practice that on all your different string sets. Learn those arpeggio locations, and most importantly, practice your economy picking on all the string sets. Now let's talk about that picking technique. So licks like that are what I see people trying to learn economy picking with, and that's the last thing you want to start with. I designed this Etude right here so that it has rest strokes in it. And those rest strokes fall on little breaks so you can make sure you're doing it right. If it's all just going by in like a 16th note blur, it is so hard to keep up with what is going on and physically feel like, am I making the right choices or not? That also reminds me of my prom night. But whenever you're practicing this exercise with these rest strokes that have the pauses in them, you can really take a second to observe your technique and make sure you're doing stuff the way that you think you are. Here's what I'm talking about. The way that all of these should be picked is like this. Down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up. So we're really just practicing down to down economy picking a la Yngwie, EJ, Marty Friedman, tons of other guys. So with this technique right here, what I want you guys to do is with that very first note that you play, I want you to bury the pick in such a way that it lands on the next string. So you can see right now, I'm not just hitting my D string with a downstroke and letting that stroke float like that. I'm using the G right here as my stopping block. Like that is what is stopping the pick from going down further, is the next string of the guitar. Now, because I have a little bit of a rest right here, especially at the slower tempos, this is a perfect time for me to observe, am I resting the pick on the next string or am I free floating? If you get used to this free floating thing, I mean, that's handy for certain things, but economy picking is definitely not one of them. For economy stuff, you got to get used to striking through the string. This is the best way to think of it. I'm striking through the string and landing on the next string to rest on. Think about it like going through the string and using that next string as like a springboard or a trampoline. And then whenever it's time to pick that note, I push it through further to play the alternate picking sequence. So it's like rest stroke, down, up, rest, down, up. And in fact, I would encourage you guys to deliberately say it this way in your head to yourself. The brain is amazing at receiving instructions, even if the call is coming from inside the house, and we're the one giving ourselves the command. Think about the way that you put together IKEA furniture, and you read the instructions to yourself. Insert the floor bin into the ass raggin'. Okay, like you say those things to yourself, and your brain takes instructions great, even when the call is coming from inside. So be sure to give yourself instructions as you do this, and don't think of it as downstroke, down, up. Actually, that wasn't anything like what I just said. Downstroke, down, up. Don't think of it like that. Think of it instead as rest, down, up, rest, down, up, rest, down, up, rest, down, up. If you're trying to practice your economy picking with stuff that's just straight non-stop speed like that, it is so hard to tell if you're doing it right. But by giving yourself these rest strokes as kind of like a little technique pit stop, you're sure to get this technique down and make it a regular part of your playing. Whenever I practice with that rest stroke approach, I can kind of feel my hand freeze framing. Whenever I play that after the rest stroke, it's like freeze, do some picking, freeze, do some picking. Like that kind of thing right there. Now, if you're having trouble here with your pick going through the next string instead of resting on it, so in other words, instead of doing this, it does this. Then try increasing the inward angle of the pick. And I'm not talking about this kind of angle or anything. I'm talking about like if these are the strings of the guitar, try to make sure your pick is going in to the strings like this and not up and down like this. Up and down will lead to you grazing through the next string by accident. But whenever you're coming in at this angle with your downstrokes, the downward pick slanting angle that I've talked about a million times, your pick will just sit on the next string rather than go through it. You can push down hard and it won't go through the string. Whereas if your pick is too flat, yeah, it'll just kind of cruise through them like that. So be sure to have a really strong angle to your pick attack. You can see right there. It's kind of like the pick is going into the strings at this angle instead of this angle. It's like that instead. That'll help you get that rest stroke technique down. And now a tale of Marlboro mileage. So back in the 90s, during the era of the Marlboro miles, those cartons were being printed in the town that I lived in, which was Morristown, Tennessee, back in the day. And a friend of mine's dad worked at the factory where they were printing these things out. And so the dudes at the factory started getting kind of wise to it, and they would take home spools of these, unused cartons and just clip the miles out of them, right? So these guys in Morristown were buying like the entire catalog like 3 times over. And apparently the main company got a little bit suspicious that they weren't selling any more product in Morristown, Tennessee than anywhere else, but yet they were shipping out like 20 times the national level of merchandise, So they had to go in and enact some pretty strict laws regarding that stuff and how the materials were handled at the factory. Pretty funny stuff. That's just good, trashy crap from growing up, in the early 90s in the Southeast. Thank you guys so much for watching this economy picking etude extravaganza. It's a great thing to practice. Definitely more interesting than just playing up and down scales or whatever. So be sure to practice this thing up, get it up to speed, and your economy picking is going to become supernatural in absolutely no time, especially if you use those practice tracks on the Patreon page. So be sure to snag those. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, and tell your mom I said hi. Well guys, it's been fun as always, but now it's time to get on out of here and do some guitar shredding. I recommend you guys do the same. Let's click it. More picking.